tuning into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty, its incredible detail. Tuning into it. They want to shatter your mind talking about Justin Bieber. It's pure evil.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host, superior web headmaster and conqueror of the quantum realm, Jarod Bachman-Stubbs, and joining me for this episode is friend of the show. Guys, it's almost the end of February, and it's finally happened. We got our first crossover with the CompoCast. We got our boy Mitch up in here. Mitch Doff.
Welcome to Modusy.
Welcome to Modusy.
It would be Mitch Dofk.
Mitch Dofk. Yes, Mitch Dofk, of course. But yeah, here, I'm going to check my settings real quick to make sure my audio is coming through. Okay, all right. It was on a weird setting after the last time I restarted my computer, and it was for the most recent episode of the Versus series, and I sounded like shit and did not realize it until it was out, and I was like, ooh.
The worst thing you can do is restart a computer.
I know, right? Oh my god, it's the scariest shit ever. But I had to update it. But yeah. So we got fun stuff to talk about. I'm very excited to talk Quantumania. I like this a lot. We might be joined by our respective co-hosts later in the episode. Not sure yet. But in the meantime, before we get into that, we have a word from our lovely sponsors from SundaysBloodyMary.com. You guys know the drill by now. SundaysBloodyMary.com has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement across the multiverse. They got their 2-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their traditional and mild mixes as well, if the spice isn't for you. They also got some bitchin' garnishes with their pickled dilly beans, okra, asparagus, and some rim salt in there too. So go ahead and get some of that and their cute little tomato-themed merch. So going over to SundaysBloodyMary.com/shop, use code TNAP, TNAP, to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Mitch Dofk, my dear friend from across the pond.
Or Jang
the Conqueror.
Yeah.
I like it. How are you feeling about Quantumania? Because somehow, and I don't know why, this movie is divisive, and it boggles my mind.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it better than Ant-Man and the Wasp by a fair margin. I don't think it's better than the first Ant-Man, but that's a really high bar. Because that first Ant-Man's like nigh on perfect.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you know, I've got my fair share of issues with it. I don't think a lot of them match up to other people's, or some do, but some definitely don't. But I think like the performances, especially from like Kang and not from Kang, obviously, you know, Jonathan Majors and like Corey Stoll as MODOK. I mean, Paul Rudd's just a treasure. And then we actually get Pfeiffer being allowed to do something in these movies for a change.
Yeah, which is nice. She has kind of been relegated to I mean, obviously a supporting character, but supporting character to the point where, like, you know, she was kind of the MacGuffin of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and, you know, I don't even think she's like a part of like the reunion montages in Endgame.
No, because it's just
Scott
Hope and Cassie.
It's Scott Hope and Cassie, yeah. So
they seem to have forgotten Van Dyne, and it still hurts after all these years.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that like the person who in the comics named the Avengers and has been like is a founding member and is so integral to the team. Speaking on Janet specifically, has been like so underused in the MCU. And like, and again, like adaptation does not require direct one-to-one,
No.
and
When it's because of someone like Edgar Wright holding Janet hostage,
yeah.
I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that was my thing from the beginning. Was like when they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna do an Ant-Man movie, and it's gonna be Scott Lang," and I was like, "Really? Not the one everybody knows?" But now everybody knows Ant-Man is Scott Lang, which I I think it is the modern comic book movie version of how many people throughout the 80s and 90s were convinced that Joker was the man who killed Batman's parents because of Batman.
Yeah,
89.
but it's also 90s with what's his name, Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly was a lot of people Spider-Man back then, the Clone Saga. You had all the Green Lanterns, Wally West as Flash, and all this.
That's very true. But yeah, no, I do agree with you. I have some gripes about Janet's presentation in the movie. But like I said, we'll get into that. And I did enjoy this on the whole. I do think there's some fine tuning that could have been done. I'm very interested. I very much hope to one day find out what all these reshoots at the end were about. And what decision was made, like with a month to go.
Oh, I can say that right now.
Oh, please do.
They were going to be stuck in the quantum realm again.
So that's what I've been hearing. I wasn't sure how accurate or true that was.
Yeah. Which, I get why they changed it. I don't understand why it took them until a month before release to redo the ending to get away from that. But
yeah,
having it happen twice in 2 movies is.
I agree. I think I can go either way on it. Because on one hand, yes, I do think it is repetitive that we are 3 for 3 on Ant-Man movies, having like one of the main conflicts being, oh no, somebody's stuck in the quantum realm, 2 in a row for it being Scott.
Yeah.
For the movie to end with him being stuck in the quantum realm, which makes you think, do we have another Avengers movie that begins with Scott getting spat out of the quantum realm? Which could be kind of grating and frustrating. I think the reason why I think it could have worked is that, the overarching theme of this Ant-Man trilogy is you have Scott Lang, a man who has lost so much time, be it because of his prison sentence, be it because of him being locked away and put on house arrest because of his allegiances during Civil War. Chose the wrong side.
Indeed, factual.
We could say that in safety. That's one of the few nice things about Armin not being here. We're having fun, but so he loses time because of the fallout from Civil War. He loses time for being stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years when Cassie needed him most. And you could then follow that up with, and then he sacrificed the time that he could continue to spend with her to defeat Kang. So I think there's an interesting bend you could have taken with that. That it is yet again Scott Lang is going to miss time with his loved ones because he is serving a greater good, and it's always been because he serves a greater good. It's very Spider-Man in that way. It's very much him being punished for doing the right thing because he screws over that bajillionaire, and that's why he's locked up in the first movie. He, again, he aids Cap. He gets stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years, and then he ostensibly sacrifices himself to stop Kang. I don't think that would have been a bad decision necessarily, but it is weird that like the premise of every Ant-Man story begins with someone's trapped in the quantum realm. And I cannot fault them for going back on that. We'll see how it plays out. My biggest issue with the movie, and it's mostly kind of with how it ends, and into post credit and stuff like that. I I didn't know how quickly we were going to get introduced to the Council of Kang.
No.
I wasn't sure how soon they'd pull the trigger on that. And from the moment that we get pardon me. From the moment we get Kang being like, they cast me out, they did whatever, I was like, oh damn, already. At the very least, they're getting teased. And I kind of always thought that the Kang we'd meet in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania would be the Kang we would be at odds with throughout the rest of this multiverse saga. And
I mean, they did kind of set it up to be that, right? Because the minute we found out it was Kang, they're like, "This is the Conqueror. This is, it is the Kang." And I still think it can be.
It definitely still can be. Like him getting like swallowed up into that battery doesn't mean he's dead by a long shot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And again, I think there's a fun way that you can like also counter, because I've seen a lot of people doing this whole like, oh, how are we supposed to buy Kang as this big bad evil villain when we see him get beaten up by ants? And it's like, I think that's a little disingenuous. I think it's a bit of an oversimplification.
Yeah, because
of what happened.
Even if it wasn't like the movie just Janet outright says like he doesn't have anything. He has his chair. He has his suit, sure, but he doesn't have everything at his disposal.
Yeah. Well, not even that. Just like you see, this is a bad man, and I think the idea of him coming back, like because you get to do the whole like I want revenge on the Kang Council for casting me out, and I'm this like bloodthirsty conqueror who's trying to bring order to prevent whatever apocalyptic event he's referring to. It's probably going to be Secret Wars. Is what he's alluding to, like, oh, this horrible thing, and it's going to be like the convergence that wipes everything out. Or I'm sorry, what are they actually called in Marvel? I keep calling it incursion. I keep saying convergence, like DC.
You're very close.
I know.
Basically the same word.
But with the like trying to prevent like the incursion of all incursions, that wiped out the Ultimate Universe, Secret Wars. And I like that a lot, but I also like the idea that on top of being angry at the Council of Kangs, and on top of seeing himself as a savior, he also now is like, and I'm gonna fuck up all the Avengers, because like there's a coldness to him that I like. It's very Darth Vader, where there's a dispassionateness to him. Like there is rage bubbling under the surface, but he is not necessarily like this like outraged dervish who's like, I'm going to burn everything down because I'm angry and I want blood. It's because like he has a vision and a belief. And not unlike Vader, who is just has the capacity for extreme violence, but like a lot of the time it's not a personal thing. The way Kang just offhandedly is like, oh, like I know I've killed a Thor. Are you a Thor? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like it's not personal for him. For the most part.
No, it can't be, right? The living life as a Kang would. Nothing's.
Yeah.
You have no attachments to anything but yourself.
Until he gets fucked with. And then it all becomes personal. Yeah. So I love the idea that, like, and it's like Scott's little mini crisis at the end of the movie. Pardon me. Where he is, like, oh my God, did I just damn all these people to death? That it's like, you kind of did. Because like now it's personal with Kang. Now like he wants to fight all of you. He's going to want all of you dead. So I think that what they did here was allow Kang to kind of have his like Shredder throwing his hand out of the dumpster moment, later down the line to like, oh damn, he's not dead. All we did was piss him off actually.
Yeah. He's just currently smaller than he already was.
Yes, he's just currently really, really itty bitty tiny. So yeah, that's my. But anyway, to get back to what I was saying initially, I don't dislike it. I don't dislike the fact that like it seems like the threat is going to have more to do with the Council of Kangs than it is going to be like this Kang the Conqueror in particular. We'll see. I just was like a little underwhelmed by the whole like, well, let's show them what we got stinger.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of thought it was just gonna be this guy, and then like we'd see him maybe dismantle the Council of Kangs. But I was just I was a little off put by that decision. I guess like I it wasn't what I was
That's fair.
anticipating, and I was like, I kind of wanted to see this specific version, because like. And it's not that I don't think Jonathan Majors can keep doing different Kangs and make them all feel different and distinct from each other, but still having that through line of we are all Kang the Conqueror. I just really badly like this specific interpolation we got in this movie.
Mm.
And really wanted that. And I wanted the suit and I wanted all of this stuff. Like, because he looks and feels so perfect.
Oh yeah,
that's just
one of the best things I've ever done. It's stunning.
Yeah, the suit is incredible. Like everything about this Kang is incredible. And like part of me is like, yeah, I don't want to deal with Pharaoh Kang.
Don't want Ramatut or whatever his name is.
Yeah, like I find it infinitely less interesting than just classic Kang the Conqueror. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm very willing to be disproven. And everything I was saying about Kang coming back for revenge could very easily be the way they actually play this.
Yeah, the way I'm just looking at it right now, right, is the council's going to be the catalyst for Secret Wars, right? Like you're going to have the Conqueror come back from this movie. This is going to be the Kang that starts everything. His whole thing of like, all these incursions, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, you're going to end up making everything go. You're going to be the reason why time gets broken and why the multiverse is piling on top of itself.
Yeah.
I can't see the council being the focus. I think it'd be too confusing, right? There's just too many different versions of them. Like it's a fun thing you get to do with Kang, but at the same time, it's use them as part of the story. Focus on the Conqueror.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right with that. While we're on the topic of our baddies for this movie, what do we talk about? The fellow who's in your profile picture here for this episode.
This happy little guy.
It's happy.
It's adorable.
Man, people don't like fucking fun. People don't like to have fucking fun.
No.
You miserable fucks need to just keep watching The Dark Knight. I'm tired. I am exhausted.
What makes me love MODOK even more is they have like an actual life-size model for an on set standing. I'm like, can I have that? Like, I want my giant Corey Stoll face in a tiny chair.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Like they hit the nail on the head. Like, do I wish we could have gotten like more MODOK down the line? I was a little disappointed that he died.
Same. Yeah. I get why that, he's a fun one and done thing, right? Like, but at the same time, it's like, no, we can't get MODOK with AIM anymore. I know AIM was in Iron Man 3, but you could have pulled him back and all this sort of stuff. But I'm just happy we got him.
Yeah.
I'm happy he worked.
I agree. I think
and he's so happy. He died an Avenger.
That's died.
MODOK.
Scott, I always saw you like a brother. Fucking killed me. Oh my god!
Like, strokes his face and his chest. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, it's great. It's super fun. It's really silly. Again, this is proof you can change things around and move stuff around, and it'd still be really fun and really cool. Again, like look at Red Lotus and Moon Knight. Like you have a one-time villain in one comic 1,000 years ago. What are we going to do? We're going to adapt it into our first Egyptian superhero is what we're going to do. And just flip the script completely. It was great. Corey Stoll, absolute scene stealer. He was so much fun in this role. And like, I think he did they captured, in my opinion, the spirit of MODOK so well. Because it is the dynamic of he looks so fucking silly, juxtaposed with he is so goddamn dangerous and scary.
Yeah, yeah.
And like every scene he was in, I felt adequately endangered while also not being able to stop laughing at him. Like, I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie was when he attacks Hank aboard that like starfighter thingy. When he like latches onto it, like, hello,
Yeah.
Hank. Fuck, huh? You know, he's looking at him, Darren, and he's like, my name is Mona. He like throws the ship. Great scene, and it like that was. It was so MODOK. Yes, it's not, you know, George Tarleton and whatever, but I don't know, man. I really dug this. I
say, you know, I can kind of understand the complaint about CG for the face, but at the same time, that's never going to look right. You know,
Yeah.
it's if they made him like really ugly and how MODOK looks, it would have looked ridiculous. Like even more so, you wouldn't have brought it. No, there's no way anyone would have like. People have been complaining far more now than they ever were. But the fact that it's just his face, it's just slightly stretched.
Yeah, I know. I think that's perfect. I don't think,
It's
and I agree with you. I don't think you can ugly it up. I really don't. I think
No.
I don't think you can ugly it up without it being to the point where it's just hard to look at.
Yeah.
And I really like the design choice here. I enjoy the changes they made. I enjoy the rationale that he like shrank and grew at the same time in the wrong places, and now he's just this like little, you know, head
I
thing.
mean, some would say he grew in the right places because I don't believe those cheeks were ever part of Corey Stoll as Darren Cross. Like, proportionately, they are bigger than they should be.
I'm trying to fly around and eradicate the quantum realm resilience, but my ass cheeks are clapping and alerting the laser head guy. But
God
yeah,
bless
no,
you.
I really like this performance. It's really fun. Like, you know, I was recently on Mile High Cinema, a friend of the show, Trey Mitchell, and we were talking about the first two Ant-Man movies, and I was like, people rank Yellow Jacket so low for their MCU villains, and I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't, because he's just a fun mustache twirling prick. He's just mean and crazy.
Yeah. He's
so
Red
much fun
Skull
because
without
of it.
like the massive Nazi bit, right? He's just he's a dick for the sake of being a dick. Yeah.
He's just a bastard.
Yeah.
And it makes him so much fun, you know? Like, he's just saying and doing the most insane shit. Like, we don't talk about his, like, uber suspicious murder outfit he wears to Hank Pym's house in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's like he picked out an outfit to look like a murderer in a fucking crime movie with his, like, between his, like, cabbie hat and the leather gloves. It's like, who the fuck are you? He's just a crazy lunatic, and
You should just
evil.
straight up murder the dude. Like,
yeah. The guy
that's what
complained
he
about his pitch,
beats
and then
that
he just
guy.
shrunk him into a blob and flushed him down the toilet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course this guy would become MODOK down the road. You know, like
Yeah.
it works perfectly.
But you know, the only reason people complain about that is because it is just, oh, it's the hero, but a different color and bad.
But
Only
even
gets boiled
then, I
down
don't
to-
even see that. Unless you're gonna go for like he is a complete inversion of Scott. That where
Yeah.
Scott is like very, you know, ambivalent and like, you know, charitable towards his common man, is just an all-around kind of fun, happy-go-lucky guy. That his direct opposite is a fucking lunatic who is like is egotistical. Okay, sure, I guess, but even that I don't fully buy that. But I love every decision they made with MODOK. I love that he was reasoned with. I love Darren. Don't be a dick. Tell me what to be. I don't know what to be. And it's like, yeah, that checks out for him because that's his arc in fucking Ant-Man. Like one.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, he doesn't know who he is. He's based his entire personality and life and everything around like trying to live up to Hank Pym. So like, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
So
the only complaint is I want more MODOK.
I want more MODOK too. I think there's an argument that can be made that MODOK could have been the main villain of this movie.
I think he was supposed to.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because when Paul Rudd was writing the script, it was MODOK a name. I was just going to be on a lot smaller scale, and then Peyton Reed's like, "No, I want to do Kang," and then they made it this movie. But
like I said, as long as they're like the actual, it's a decision made by creatives and not coming from on high of like we need to introduce Kang now type thing. I dig that. I like Peyton Reed a lot.
I never get the criticisms with Peyton Reed, to be honest. I think he's done a really good job with them. Like, Ant-Man and the Wasp might be my least favorite one because I think it's very much a filler apart from the end credit. But I still enjoyed it.
I love that movie.
It's still
so much.
Funny.
I rewatching Ant-Man and the Wasp again very recently. And and I've never been the type of person who like goes back to like rewatch a bunch of MCU stuff when a new one's coming out. Rewatching Ant-Man and the Wasp for Mile High Cinema, I was like, I need to rewatch every movie, not everything, every franchise. It's like the next entry. I got to do it now. I have to, and like I felt so fulfilled going into this one, having the other two be so fresh, and like I'm absolutely doing that for Guardians now. Even though the first half of that second movie is mid as fuck, but
some would say it's below mid, but they'll keep that to themselves.
It's just the first half. From the Prison Break onward, Guardians 2 is one of the best MCU movies.
I haven't seen it in a while, so I can't.
That first half.
I remember the ending. No.
The first half is rough for me.
Yeah,
but that's just me.
I just remember it being. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that movie.
But all of that said, yeah.
So just while staying on MODOK though, quickly before if you're going to move on, just to jump in. The only thing I've seen, like the discourse around this bit, and this bit specifically, I definitely agree with, is I would have liked a bit more MODOK and Cassie, because this is the guy, as she says,
it's a really cool dynamic. It is a really cool dynamic.
I just wanted, if I had my way, I would have had MODOK stay alive and be in the Young Avengers or whatever the hell they do, right? Because then it's Cassie, you got Cassie and MODOK, and it's just that dynamic, and I think that would be a good inciting incident for that team to come together. We didn't get that, but on the flip side, I haven't necessarily got a massive problem with her just shrugging it off, because why would it affect her? She's been around all this stuff.
Well, here's my thing. I don't think it is as much of a shrug off as much as it is her first big hero moment. And I really did. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it up because I almost forgot. And this is one of my favorite elements of the movie is seeing, pardon me, allergies, is seeing her reaction to seeing him for the first time and continued throughout the movie. Like when they're locked up in Kang's little jail, where like she's getting uneasy around him, and there's a moment of seeing how empowering her suit is, and like how empowering the stature persona is, that she like bigs herself up and then just punts him. Like there's a moment of like, I'm bigger and tougher than you now, because you were this big man in a suit of armor staring down at a child with fucking lasers on your back. And I was 6, and now I'm an adult, and now I'm bigger than you. Go fuck yourself. And I love that not only does Cassie get to have a moment where she gets the MODOK across the room and put him in his place. I also love to see people, or not. I'm sorry, to see like, how do I put it? I also like to see that she's able to reason with him and do what heroes are supposed to do with people. That like have that moment of de-escalation and have that moment to be like, hey, stop. And it shows how much of a great hero she's going to become and how she has taken on some of her dad's best traits and also has expanded upon them and improved a lot of things. And again, this era of torch passing is something I really, really like, and seeing it continue here. With one of my another like element of this movie that I really, really liked was seeing the apathy with Scott. I really like the idea that you see him do what a lot of like like every generation has their like defining moment. They rise to the occasion, and then they're done, or like that's that's what we're taught, like the greatest generation beat the Nazis and then done. Gen X and millennials had that, or Gen X especially had that, like the history has ended, like we're done. We saved the world. We beat the Nazis. We beat, the Cold War is over. It's smooth sailing from here on out. And that delusion causes destruction. That is a grave failing that will lead to complacency and will lead to the people who are in charge not knowing how or when to step in. And it's why like so many issues right now have gotten out of control, like climate change, on top of like people being paid off to not care. But like issues like climate change, issues like extremism from the alt-right, there's this like very insular look on things where you go, oh, well, we already handled all the big issues. This can't be that bad. We elected a black president. Racism is over. Type mentality. And you see that in Scott. You see in Scott, well, we brought back, all the trillions of people that Thanos killed. Yeah. We killed Thanos twice. I'm done now. There's nothing else I have to do. When in reality, like the world is still falling apart at the seams. So very real issues. Also, there's like the blip-induced homelessness issue. But there is like, you have cops going in, like flushing, unhoused people from their encampments and stuff. And Scott's like, well, yeah, it's a good thing to protect them, but ... It's that complacency of somebody who's like, I served my time. I did my thing to like save the universe, and now I'm done. And you see it all the time in the real world with political leaders and thought leaders. And I really liked watching Scott in real time adopt Cassie's revolutionary behavior.
Yeah.
That like he found his anti-authoritarianism again. He found like his willingness to fight for other people again. And I also like the fact that they don't frame it as a malicious arrogance either. That it isn't like it's less self-indulgent than like say Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3. Like it is a legitimate like old head behavior, not like it's similar to that, but it's not as frustratingly egotistical. And I really appreciated the nuance that they brought to Scott in that arc he has of being like, no, I still have a responsibility to help people. And I am shirking that responsibility by doing what I'm doing now. Absolutely love that. Absolutely love those decisions. And I like seeing Hank, because again, another element that I love about these two movies is that like Hank and Scott are these parallels to each other. They are two men who desperately want nothing more than to just have the time back with their daughter that they lost. And
with their family. Yeah.
With their family in general. It starts with just his daughter because they all assume Janet is dead in the first one. But like,
that's true.
But you're right. Like they just want their families back and the time that they've lost with them, and seeing Hank have it all back now. So like he is doing everything he can to enrich his relationship with Cassie is just so sweet, like it just makes me really happy. Like this is a feel good movie that I really enjoyed. Yeah, I've been talking for a minute. pass the mic back to you.
I don't know. It's just fine. It's I like to listen. I'm a listener, but no, it's like just to be on the other side of the fence. The only, I think there's a slight plot hole with all this family stuff, right?
Okay.
The movie hinges on the quantum realm signal, right?
Yeah.
And it's being kept secret. Like, the whole thing about keeping secrets from like your family members and not talking to each other. It is a little bit weak that Hank and Cassie are doing this thing with the quantum realm, yet they're not talking to Janet about it. For someone that wants the time back with the family, like that is the story about having the time with your family. They're actively leaving out Janet. Whether they've gone to Janet before and she doesn't want to talk about it or anything to do with it, that's something I think the movie should have shown. But that is very much like she's right there. She's lived down here for 30 years. Like, why aren't you talking to her about it? Why is this a shock to Janet of all people?
I do agree with I agree with you in part. I think part of the issue is part of it is, and they do like, and I understand the way they try to address it and get ahead of exactly what you just said by saying like Janet has been so cagey about her time within the quantum realm, but I think what they're trying to get at with that, and I have issues that completely center around Janet's time in the quantum realm. I think like once they realize, like I think their experiments with the quantum realm began with them trying to probe Janet for information. And when she said no, when she did not offer up her wisdom, they went, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves. Fuck it, we do it live,
Yeah, I would just like a scene of that.
I agree. I would have liked a little, throwback to them trying to pry information out of her.
The start of this movie, it goes so quick.
Yeah,
and but I also 10 minutes or whatever it is, like it does breakneck through, and it's like just another like 30 seconds of them trying or something.
I agree, and but I also do like the payoff we get with Hope as well, though. Like with her arc, is that she has a very, like you see the amount of resentment she carries for Hank through the first movie and a little bit into the Ant-Man and the Wasp too. But there's still some of that distrust. And by the time we get to Quantumania, she is so incredibly understanding and patient with her mom. The moment, the moment she finally opens up, when she actually is like, okay, here's the thing with this Kang guy, she immediately hits her with the, thank you for telling us. I'm sorry you felt like you couldn't.
Yeah.
And it's that,
I just wish that. No, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I was just saying, I just wish Hope had more to do, because she was there to react to the family in this movie.
That's valid. I agree. No. And I'm not even saying this is a joke. I keep forgetting that this movie is called Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah, it should have been called Ant-Man and Stature, because thank God they didn't go Stinger. I'm going to say it right now that I was terrified they were going to go with Stinger for Cassie and
keep the bug stuff.
Yeah, they've obviously gone Stature with the Stinger colors, which is fair enough, but it's whatever. So, yeah.
Fun little hybridization. My biggest issue with Janet in this movie is, and it's just a trope thing, and I'm the first person to admit, certain tropes I love. There are certain hammy little things that I'm like, yeah, it's a little cliche, but in the context of a deconstruction or whatever, I really like. I got so annoyed with Janet with how often she just spoke in vagaries to get us to the mid.
Yeah.
That shit frustrated me. Him, and everybody, and nobody would address Kang by name. And I'm going to be honest, I gave the movie the widest berth, because I'm like, maybe it's Voldemort rules, because not to invoke, bitch face, Rowling, but the whole idea, and even though it didn't work like that, the whole idea that people were so afraid of Voldemort to the point where if you invoke his name, he will appear. Like, even though it didn't work like that, it was a cool
Yeah.
idea. And that's literally what I thought was happening here. Only if you did use his name, he would hear you.
Yeah, especially when
Like,
it's like,
do some
oh,
weird psychic shit.
he already knows you're here. He's already sent the hunter out. And it's
Exactly. So, like, the whole, like, you know, they won't address him by name. I'm like, maybe by invoking his name, you are courting him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, maybe that's what they're gonna do. And then they're on the airship and they're talking, and then she Kang. And I'm like, okay, so we could have just said his name this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just say his name. At the very least, just say his name. It just feels so.
Especially because, like, who are you hiding this from? Right?
Exactly.
What's the purpose in hiding Kang's
and she
name?
keeps saying, "I'm going to tell you when I'm able to."
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
we
like
can
when we're
right
able
now,
to
man.
like sit down and talk. So like, just say something, man. Something, anything at this point. But you know, that was my biggest issue. You know, like, and I'm so glad
the movie had a lot of that, right? Like,
it did have a lot of that.
That's a factor that everyone in the quantum realm, maybe apart from Bill Murray's scene, didn't need to be in this movie for this movie to happen the exact same way.
Yeah.
Because
that's fair.
He already knows why is Scott and Cassie talking to these people with a Rick and Morty blob, which I hated that thing, by the way. That was
You didn't like him? I thought he was
no. Literally, it's just Morty, and I couldn't stand it. I don't like Rick and Morty in general, and then there's this pink gelatinous Morty, and I'm like, no. It also felt like him and the light bulb head guy were just trying to be Korg and Meek. And
I don't know. I think
that's
the blob
the
guy
vibe
has
I
way
got
more
from him.
personality than Meek.
I mean, he's got more personality, but it's that dynamic of big thing, little thing. Also, the big ones are both grey and the little ones are both purple / pink. It's like ever since like Rocket and Groot, it's like we don't need like Korg and Meek. Fine. After that, you're just trying to repeat the same thing, and it didn't work. Like I couldn't tell you any of the names of the Quantum Realm people in this because
I mean, I couldn't either, but that's also just because I'm bad with name retention.
I mean, that's fair. That's very fair. But they have no real purpose of being there. And they also wasted William Jackson Harper, which I'm mad at.
I agree on William Jackson Harper being very underused. And again, like quantum bullshit, you know, we had all the Luke Cage recap. Like, we've seen both villains of Luke Cage coming back as much more important character. Or, let me rephrase that. We've seen the antagonists of Luke Cage show up in different places with varying importance.
Yeah.
So I'm not that worried about that. I'm sure they could absolutely bring back William Jackson Harper as like a different character. I know everybody
they could, but I feel like it's fairly soon for that. But I suppose they did it with Gemma Chan, didn't they? With Eternals and Captain Marvel, that was quite cool.
And like maybe you just go the reverse with that you did with Gemma Chan. She went from like blue alien to like not wearing any like weird makeup. Maybe you just do William Jackson Harper up in some weird makeup now.
I hope so. I just have no hope at the minute. I have no faith in that. But
I agree with you completely.
That's my fault.
He was wasted there, and I agree with you completely. But no, I do like the rebellion against Kang's empire.
I like the idea of it. I just don't think
it's the execution.
Yeah. I know it's dog in this movie, and like it's weird for me to be all like this and then just come out being like, yeah, I really liked it. But I think the movie worked, but there are some like those, like some just glaring things. I'm like, there wasn't a reason for these. Like, if you're gonna do this, why did you do that and all that sort of stuff? But
no, that's very fair. I understand that. I don't know. I liked their presence because of the way they rub off on Scott.
Yeah.
And going back to the like, you know, speaking in vagaries for the sake of the plot issue, I am so glad, and I was so worried about this, that what we were going to end up with was Janet, Hank, and Hope were going to know that Kang is evil. And when we meet back up with Scott and Cassie, they're going to be like Kang pilled because he lied to them.
Yeah.
And I was like, can we please not do this? And again, I'm glad because again, like that's where that we're going to be deliberately vague until it's too late trope always ends up. Is it somebody ends up on the wrong side of a conflict because they were not adequately informed by the person who knew everything.
Yeah.
So seeing it very much be Kang, you know, like force choking them both basically, I really liked. And that there was no question of like, okay, we're gonna fight him now. There was no moment where Ant-Man accidentally was on his side. Pardon me, but yeah, no. On the whole, I did like this. MODOK rules. Interested to see where Kang goes. I don't have any money on this being the last Ant-Man.
No,
Because,
not in the slightest. No.
Well, they've made it clear, you know, and I keep saying this to people. They're like, "Oh, this is a bad way to close out Scott's journey." First of all, I disagree with that. I think the story began with Scott thinking his time as a hero was over because he did the thing, and the story ends with him realizing your job as a hero is never over. Your job as a leader is never over.
Yeah.
You can always do more to help your fellow man. I think that's an important story and an important lesson for him to learn, especially now that he gets to have what he always wanted. But also, Marvel has made it clear that they're not operating on trilogy rules anymore. We have a fourth Four. We had a fourth Avengers. We're getting a fourth Captain America. You know, like we're not. It's not. We don't stop at threes anymore, and it was arbitrary to begin with. It's just fun to call something a trilogy, you know?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, it's the 3-act structure, right? It's 1, 2, 3. It's just spread out over 9 acts itself, but
yeah. So,
but hey, there's always a fourth act. The fourth act's always been a thing.
That is very true. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I'm not going to make anybody grade this. I'm kind of trying to move away from that, aside from the fact that like the Academy letter grade thing was a fun.
I say you're telling me you've moved away from it when I actually thought of one before we started.
Oh, then I'd love to hear it then.
It's just going to be a B. No, it's just
be I'm happy giving something a B plus. I'm very happy giving something.
Do you know what? I was so close. I originally thought B plus, and I was like, no, I got too much stuff against it to be a B plus, and I was like, a B's fine. A B's fine.
Oh, I also want to say, love the fight choreography in this, especially that bare knuckle fight between Ant-Man and Kang at the end. Like,
yes, I will give the movie that fight was fantastic.
I love characters.
I enjoyed that fight.
I love characters who like have like fucking powers who can also just scrap.
Yeah,
like that is my favorite shit. And watching Kang no suit just piece up Ant-Man, that shit was great. Loved it.
On the flip side, though, to be not contrarian, but to balance it out, because I don't know where I was going with that. This movie has no sense of scale, and I felt like it missed an opportunity there. Because I never realized it. Right, well, Ant-Man 1, the whole point is it, or even the first two, like it's based on the size and like how he can go like big and small, right? You can shrink and you can grow. In this movie, like, you know, there are some times where you can get that when it's blatantly obvious, like Cassie's normal size, but you see Scott shrink down. But then you get to the moment where they're running towards each other and they have the hug, and you get the Godzilla joke.
Yeah.
There's nothing around them to dictate their size. And all the fight stuff that they do with that man going big and small isn't as good as the other two movies. Personally. So when I say scale, I literally mean the scale of them compared to everything else. They weren't as creative with it, right? It's literally it boiled down to generic.
You don't get anything.
He's shrunk. He's gone down.
You don't get like a butcher knife wall run.
No.
Here, no. Yeah, no. That's valid. That's absolutely fair.
But I will say, I can never remember the name of it. When he's inside the core, The probability storm.
Yes.
That whole scene where he just splits and every decision he could possibly make is like personified. That made up for it.
Yes.
And I wasn't even conscious of it until that Godzilla joke. I'm like, they haven't really played about with the sky, like this, how small and how tall he gets.
Yeah.
But that probability storm scene was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh my, the probability that was so. It made my heart so happy. Just do it for Cassie. Love it.
Does that guy have ice cream? I cracked up when you heard that. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, but there's when the Baskin Robbins guy version shows up just off screen, someone's like, "So you got ice cream?" Oh, hilarious. Loved it.
Fantastic. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. Ant-Man and the Wasp talk. Really enjoyed this. Excited for Guardians 3 later this year. The Marvels, which we have a poster and a new release date for.
Which a very bad poster, by the way. I didn't like that one.
You don't like the poster? I thought it was pretty.
No, I find that people go on a lot about Marvel posters. I think that might be the blandest one.
I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty, but
I'm excited for the movie. But
my favorite cosmic character, Quasar. It's in that throwback. For
are you going for the Quasar route?
Yeah,
are you going?
Yeah,
makes you go the Quasar route. Yeah.
Make me retroactively be right all the way back during saying the wrong name during WandaVision.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, my old man brain. I forgot. How did I forget that? That was beautiful.
I was say you were the one who corrected me. It was like, Jared, you're saying the wrong fucking name, buddy.
It's like you're right, but it's the wrong person. There's attachments, but it's not the right person.
Oh, it was funny. But anyway, Mitch, where can the lovely people find you and what you do, buddy?
You can find me at youtube.com/currentbookcast2 on the podcast and the TV show stuff me and Sean do. We are currently talking about The Last of Us, which I'm going to be recording in an hour. So that should be coming out this week. For the socials, the Linktree link on the screen right now. I'm literally pointing to it and I don't know why.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't.
Yes.
None of us can see you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's on the screen. linktr.ee/Mitch692. Go follow me on there and tell me why this movie forgot Janet has powers and that man that Wasp.
Does she have powers, or was it just because she just walked out of the quantum realm?
I don't know, and I don't
think was it like an energy discharge in her? Being in there for like 30 years.
I haven't seen that movie since Endgame. I have a vague recollection of her being a bit cocky with it. Like everyone being surprised, and she's like, "Well, kind of like, what do you expect?" Situation. I've been down there for years, and that whole point is Ghost was being exposed to like quantum stuff, gave her powers. So I don't know. I also don't. I got the impression in this movie when someone pointed it out, right? I got the impression that the second that clicked in my head that they didn't know where to take it, so they were just going to ignore it.
Perhaps. I mean, it would continue the
device in that man and Wasp.
It would continue the tradition of characters doing some wild Act 3 shit in an Ant-Man movie and it never coming up again, like that Hydra agent who's been sitting on PIM particles for like 10 years now.
Mitch Carson, where are you?
Yeah,
I want him. That if they're going to do an Ant-Man 4, it's like, right, you're wrapping everything up, right? I need him to come back not as Eric O'Grady, but I need Eric O'Grady to come into it via him. Give me Black Ant.
I like that a lot. Nando V Movies had a really fun pitch for a third Ant-Man movie that was called Ant-Man the Wasp and the Ant-Man.
I can see it, yeah.
That was like all the Eric O'Grady stuff. I was like, I dig it. I dig that a lot. Yeah, go follow Mitch. Go watch Comic Book Cast. I don't know how you're watching me and not Comic Book Cast. That doesn't make any sense. You guys can find me.
You can form a sentence and I can't. That's what.
Oh, well, even then, I'm kind of hit or miss. You guys can follow me personally on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where, if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd. Every time I say it, I lose. Hold on. I accidentally moved the clips around, and I can't. There it is. Thank you to Keandre Lloyd. And to Paco, my fellow policy wonk, or as he's going by on our Patreon, $1.5 billion, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
I want you, now that you saw that clip, everybody, to go rewind to the beginning of the episode and look at him like 15 years ago.
I was going to say, he's like super young in that first one.
That first one. So did you know Alex Jones did you know he's like only 49?
Is he actually?
He's not even 50 yet.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, I'm not being fair because he said he's like fucking Justin Bieber at the end of that clip, right? I played earlier. So like, it's not even.
It's like late.
It
2000s.
might be like late 2000s, early 2010s to now. Just for juxtaposition. Just for juxtaposition.
Going into space, mathematics, quantum mechanics, the secrets of the universe. It's all there. Life is fiery with its beauty. It's incredible.
To 2022.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Man has aged like milk.
It's all the screeching. It's giving him the crow's feet. It's giving him the wrinkles.
It's weird. Like he's aged weird, but like his voice is all fucked too.
Yeah,
and it's not even from the yelling. It's because the voice is fake. This shit you can only learn from listening. Again, this is the weekly knowledge fight plug.
I've missed it, to be fair. I haven't heard it in a while.
Listening to episodes they cover from 2003, they're in 2004 now. He does this weird Rush Limbaugh impression.
Yeah.
So he's not leaning into all right, listen, folks, like that, like people think of. And like that's the thing, is it like even the impression I do, like it's mid 20-teens Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Because his voice sounds like shit. He's all the way down here. And like in the early 2000s, he really leaned into his southern drawl and was talking like this in every episode. And it's this like really weird affect that like I don't think he's ever spoken on camera with his real voice except for his really early like Access TV days. He's always put an affect on his voice in some way, shape, or form.
Did he change it before or after the whole Kevin Spacey thing? Because that sounds exactly like Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
No, I mean, by the time House of Cards was coming out, is like when we see like, like the clip I played earlier where he was like quantum mechanics. Like around that time, like the early Obama years, he still had a set like that. And then like, I believe it's awful I'm using this as like a fucking benchmark, but like I know a lot of his Sandy Hook coverage, it looked like that first clip. Like he still kind of had like a setup not dissimilar to this, where it's like camera, monitor.
Yeah.
But I believe it's like the like late to mid early 20-teens is when he has like the gigantic fucking newsroom with like the giant LCD screens and stuff.
Yeah. When the news came in.
Yeah. So I don't think he dropped it because of House of Cards. He just accidentally kind of sounds like Frank Underwood.
Yeah. It'd be funny if it was.
Yeah, but
Sorry.
it's his natural voice being mixed with this Rush Limbaugh impression, mixed with him like leaning into his southern drawl. He's a huckster, and his life is falling apart, and he deserves it. But anyway, next episode of the Versus series will be out soon. Stay tuned for that. Qui-Gon versus Ahsoka, Lord Starkiller versus Obi-Wan Kenobi is out now. So yeah, stay tuned. Bad Batch and Mando coverage going to be strong on the channel as well. So please stay tuned for all of that. And Mitch, thank you for stopping by, buddy. And
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
Class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.